Hi everybody, my name is Chris Hoyston from the agency Toowoomba. My role is leasing a new business for the agency, so working with investors, property owners to rent out their properties, and then also working with tenants to find a new property, show the properties and that sort of thing. I've always worked in customer service and sales, and I thought that real estate was just the natural progression in my career. Always had an interest in real estate and property, so took a leap last year, did my course, and here we are, almost 12 months and loving it so far. So when I was first asked to do the Excite presentation, I was very hesitant because I've only been in my role for less than 12 months. But then Terry mentioned, well, the theme for today is going to be around productivity. So I thought to myself, all right, productivity, real estate, where am I going to go with this? And then I thought, okay, so in my field, those who I believe are the most productive are property managers. So property managers, day in, day out, deal with owners, tenants, and then they can manage a portfolio of up to, say, 150 properties. And a lot of people I've spoken to have asked me, how do they do that? So what I'm going to go through today is what goes on behind the scenes for property management and what good property management looks like as well, just in case you know anyone that needs a property manager or looking at getting into investment properties yourself. So property management, from my experience, being a renter and in the real estate industry, it's very easy to do poorly, but very hard to do well. So that's where I'm trying to, I guess, make a difference and show that property managers just aren't there to collect the rent. They do actually look after your investment property and try and do what's best by the owners and then best by the tenants as well. And as I said, it is very hard to do, but the team I've got myself, very good, very experienced, and very happy that I've managed to find a role where there is such a good team already. So on the back of that, as I said, I have been a renter for about 20 years myself, and I've seen the good and bad side. Just to give you a bit of a story, I had a rental over in Rangeville I was in probably about 5 years ago. It was rented through one of the big agencies in Toowoomba, and it was an older house, which we understood when we took it on. And then all these problems started happening. The major problem was the shower was leaking, caused the wooden floors in the bathroom to rot, and there was a massive hole growing as you step out of the shower. I put my foot through it myself, scratched my foot up, so I went to the real estate. I said, okay, we need to get this sorted, need to fix the shower, need to fix the floor. They said, yep, no worries, we'll get onto it. It was about 3 months later, nothing happened. So then I obviously spoke to the RTA, got some advice from them, and they said, you need to breach them if they're not going to do anything. It's a safety concern. Obviously, you've got a hole in the floor, you can have them come in, and then also it's a safety issue because as you're stepping out of the shower, you've got a massive hole there as well. So I issued a notice of remedy breach to the real estate, and by law they need to send it on to the owner as well. So I CC'd the owner into the email I sent, and then the next day I got a phone call from the owner saying, hey, what's going on? Told him the situation, and he said, okay, I know nothing about this. I have not been receiving any routine inspection reports from the real estate. They haven't told me that you've contacted them for maintenance. I just see my rent come in and that's it. I hear nothing from them. So I said, okay, well, that's not very good. So he pretty much pulled the management from them and he managed it himself. And then I sort of helped do some stuff around the house as well to fix it up for him because he lived about 8 hours away in central Queensland. So I was happy to do that because he was looking after us and approved trades pretty much straight away that needed to be done. That relationship was quite good in that sense. And we had that private arrangement up until we moved out, and then he sold the property anyway. So that was my own personal experience, and from people I've spoken to in the rental market, surprisingly, well, probably not surprisingly, it does happen a lot. You hear some good agencies, some bad agencies, but my experience is that property managers are just overworked and they're just put too much on their plate, I guess. I've heard of some property managers that have a portfolio of, say, 300 properties, which is ridiculous. Yes, they do have a bit of admin support, and they probably don't do as many roles or as many parts of their jobs as what others do, but still that's just way too much in my opinion of looking after yourself. So a quick rundown of what a I guess investment property like renting out an investment property looks like. So myself as the new business partner, I talk to the owners, go through fees and services and that sort of thing. Once they decide to go with us, then we sign a management agreement, and that's pretty much just a contract to say that we're going to manage the property for them. So once that's done, I can then organise any maintenance around the house, cleaning, everything like that, to get photos done, and then we take photos, advertise it online, and then we also reach out to our database of prospective tenants that have applied for previous houses and missed out, or people that are just on our, I guess, mailing list to find out about properties coming up. And then from there, we show the property, we process the applications, and then we pass those applications once we've shortlisted them onto the property manager. And during that time, that's when I introduce the property owner to the property manager that will be looking after their property, and then it's up to the property manager to be the point of contact for the owner, managing their property going forward. So the main roles that a property manager sort of would undertake on a day-to-day basis, they've obviously got points of contact like emails and phone calls. Some property managers give out their own, I guess, work number or personal number to tenants. We don't do that. We just have an after hours number or an office phone. So it just lessens the load on our property managers. They don't have to take as much work home with them. They're not being pestered and that sort of thing. And so they have, as I said, calls and emails they respond to. So they liaise with the tenants and the owners. So they're in charge of that property, so they deal with the tenants and the owners of that property, and they stay with that property unless circumstances change. We need to transfer property managers or they leave or something like that. So the common misconception is PMs are only for the landlords, but a good PM knows that a smooth tenancy creates a happy tenant and a happy landlord. So we're not just for the owner, we don't just sort of look after the owner's interest, we also want to make sure that the tenant's happy as well, because they're going to look after the house, they're going to pay the rent on time, they're going to sort of want to stay for a longer period, which is best case scenario for the owner as well. So without tenants, we don't have anyone to pay the rent and nobody to pay our wages, so we sort of need tenants. Then they also conduct routine inspections as well. So this is probably where most of their time is taken up, by conducting the routine inspections. So with ours, we generate reports with photos and they get sent out to the owners on a regular basis. So the owners can see what's happening with their property. And then our property managers are also very good at picking up maintenance as well. So they look at short-term and long-term. So maintenance you might need in 2 months, 6 months, and even 2 years plus. And then they also can manage like your renovations. We've got a few at the moment where they're organising renovations, just full painting of the interior, carpets, kitchens, that sort of thing, just to modernise the property, increase the rental amount, and then make it more appealing to the tenants as well. And then there's also organising trades. So all our trades you have really good relationships with, and then you liaise with sales agents as well. So every now and again you have your property go up for sale, and our property managers just want to make sure that the tenants are looked after, because they do have a lease in place that is legally binding, and they can't be kicked out of the property because someone wants to buy it and move in. So our property managers obviously trained to know what the legislation is, and they undertake regular training as well to keep up to date with the ever-changing legislation. They also represent the owners of QCAT, so when you do have the instance where tenants leave the property in a state or they fall into arrears and that sort of thing, if we can't come to a mutual agreement, then we do have to take it to QCAT. So our property managers actually go as a representative of the owner in front of the judge and say, hey, this is what's happened. It's not a pretty process. We've had a couple recently, unfortunately, and it has sort of it has worked in the owner's favours, but that's because we keep a lot of the documentation as well. So we've got proof saying, hey, this is what we've said, this is what's happened. And so the judge ruled in the owner's favour, and then the tenant has to pay for repairs, cleaning, rent arrears and that sort of thing. So yeah, so those are pretty much the main things that property managers do. There is a lot more. I've run out of time for today, so yeah, wasn't as bad as I thought getting up here, so I'm definitely keen to do another one, probably in the very near future. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. Hope it was a bit insightful for you. And yeah, were there any questions at all?
With those tenancies that were ruled in the owner's favour, how likely is it that they're going to get their money back from the bad tenants?
Yeah, well, it's a high chance because it all goes through sort of debt collectors and that sort of thing. So, yep, that's where Garth comes in. So, yeah, it's actually, once it's ruled by the judge, then it's legally binding, and whether they pay it off or have a debt collector agreement or something like that, then unfortunately it's not instant though. So that's where if you've got landlord insurance, you can claim on that for any damages and lost rent and stuff. But landlord insurance isn't a necessity. You don't have to have it. We obviously try to say it's good to have, and we obviously have arrangements with providers that we can sort of refer to and stuff, but it's up to the owner ultimately if they want insurance, which does make that process a lot easier.
Great.
Very good. All right, well, thank you very much.
You did amazing.